Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Video Mail for the week of April 18th, 2011. Thank you for being at the site. Thank you for the support as always. The Ask Video Mail is where you can get your question answered. If you're struggling with any topic in performance or character animation, send that question to me and I might make a video on your question in an Ask Video Mail to come. The email address that you should send your questions to is webmaster@kennyroy.com. I go through all the questions and I pick out the ones I think will help the most users. A few announcements. Evolve conference is coming up in Orlando, Florida. You should check that out at www.evolvecg.net. It's going to be a fantastic conference. There's some amazing, talented people that are coming and giving talks and speeches and master classes and workshops. It's just going to be so freaking cool, and I'd love to see anybody come out to the conference. I'm going to be giving away a promo code at the conference that gives a month free, so it's another reason to try to make it out to the conference if you can. There's also going to be a downloadable version of the conference that's going to be put online, I think, within a few months, maybe closer to a few weeks. I'm not quite sure yet. All those technical things are being worked out, but I do know that if you miss the conference, you have a chance to see all the great speakers and workshops later. So that's pretty cool. Also, another announcement, I think if you follow me on Twitter or if you are a friend on Facebook, you've seen that I've put a link to the How to Cheat in Maya 2012 book on Amazon that I co-authored with Eric Luta. He's an amazing guy. Was so easy to work with. It was just such a fun experience, and there was no stress, and he just really made it a really fun time, and he did a great job, and I just really like the guy, and you should check it out. If you don't have How to Cheat in Maya 2010, then I definitely super recommend that you pick up this book because there's just so much in there. And even if you do have the first How to Cheat book in Maya, well, we've rewritten all the chapters. There's plenty of new chapters that cover new topics and the new tools in Maya 2012 that are just really exciting, like editable motion trails, the new camera sequencer tool. There's just some really cool stuff in there. It's awesome. So check that out. I know I teased you guys a few weeks back with the big announcement that's coming up. That's still brewing. It's still happening, though. And as of now, I'm not quite yet ready to reveal to everybody what we got going on. But trust me, it's going to be very exciting for everyone, all the members here, as well as just animators in general. It's just it's really big, good news for everybody. So I'm stoked about that. So just keep staying tuned. Thank you for everyone who's asked me, hey, have I missed the big announcement yet? No, you haven't, but just stay tuned. Okay? Don't forget that you can get 5 days free if you write a testimonial for the site. You can find more information on that in the bonus. I'm going to add a menu item in the members section this week called bonus, and then you can just click on that and get information on how to earn 5 free days. It's just you write a testimonial, and of course the easiest way to get new time or free time on the site is to refer members. So look into that as well. Okay, let's get to the question. I'm so excited about this question because it happens so often. It's such a recurring theme in animation when you're working on the job. So let's take a look at the question. All right, this week's question is, well, having to remove large sections of animation can be very painful, but it doesn't have to be very painful. I basically have 2 quick tips on how to remove big chunks of animation. You've seen me do it. It's part of my workflow, and I've mentioned it. I've called it out when I've done it, but I actually want to really focus on it. But the first thing is actually how you create your animation. I've opened up the scene that I'm animating for the workflow lectures. I'm finishing up the part 3 of the workflow lecture. It's going to be on the site in the next few days. I just want to make sure it's perfect, though, before I put it up. But what I was just noticing was on how many keyframes or how many frames on the timeline my body was keyed full body. And if you look at the graph editor, you can see that basically there's very few sections that the body wasn't keyed full body, all controls on the keyframe. And really the reason I work like that is so that I can make changes. So I can make really big timing changes on the fly. Okay? So this is your first line of defense in not having to go through a painful process to change your animation, is to create it like this. Now this is not always possible with really physical stuff that you have to key a little bit more straightforward, but for all your performance work, if you keep your keys really, really sparse for as long as possible, it'll pay dividends. Why? Because the changes that you're going to get that are going to be broad are normally going to come early. So you didn't have to actually polish and tweak and get really, finicky and detailed off of those full body, all controls keyed frames if you didn't need to, if you didn't have to. So I was going to do the second tip in this scene, but then I realized it's already basically done. Okay, and here's what the second tip is. I've mentioned this before, but it bears repeating, and it's also called different things. I like to call it either framing and deleting. Okay, this was a tip I actually gave in the 3D World article that I wrote for November, I think, 2010. But the framing and deleting, or walling off the animation, or bookending, creating bookends. Basically what it means is you take all your controls and you set a key before and after the section that you want to edit, and then you just delete the whole in the middle. Now the reason you do this is because by creating that bookend, or by framing the trouble section with keys, or by walling off the trouble section, you're basically guaranteeing that there is no animation that was blending between all of this motion that's going to get lost now or completely destroyed because you deleted it. Another way to think of it is you're removing a section of animation, but you can only remove sections of animation that are between all controls, all keys on a single frame. Okay? And this is a super common practice. I was actually having lunch with an animator friend of mine who said, you know what, I wish I knew a couple of the things, there was only a few things I wish I knew when I first started in feature animation. He was at Sony at the time. And he said, basically setting all your full body keys all in one key, and then doing your offsets, in blocking and all this stuff. And he said doing your offsets, and I thought that was interesting. But another thing he said was, when it's time to edit animation, he wished someone told him, don't try to edit the animation or move like one section at a time or even crunch it all together or whatever. I think he said wall it off. I think he's used the term walling off. I like framing, but he said you just wall it off, delete the whole thing, and then push it together and then fix it. So that really is the pro way to make big changes, like take entire sections out. Okay. Now you're going to come up with a problem when a character has to get from A to B, and the section that you're removing is like in the middle there. Okay, so if we look at this animation, and you see he's landing, and then he takes this one little hop step, right? If we wanted to remove this little hop step, that's possible, right? But what would have to happen? He'd have to start close enough that he could land right here in this end pose. So there's a few things that you have to bear in mind. You can't just imagine that it's going to completely work no matter what. Some things, like having to cover distance, are going to screw you up. But you just have to be, you have to take a deep breath and be calm and just say, okay, this is what I have to change. So I'm just going to show you just a really quick frame and delete. All right, I'm going to have him, come to this pose right here, which I believe is a full body pose at some point. Okay, so it looks like frame 44 is full body. And if this wasn't full body already, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to do the exact same thing that I was going to. I'm going to hit S. I just set a key on every single control, every single channel. And then I'm going to go to the section I want. I'm going to take out this entire middle section where he backs up. And then he crunches down right here. So frame 156, I'm going to set another key. All right, now, again, this is kind of the way I work anyway, so there's not too much of a drastic change, but it'll still suffice. So now I'm just going to select everything between those two frames. I'm going to delete it, and evidenced by the fact that there's only a few channels that are really changing drastically. You know, the rest of them are pretty straight. You know, that was not a very destructive edit to the scene. Now I'm just going to select these controls and slide them in time backwards till it's close to the first frame. Okay. Now what we had was this keyframe at the end was at the end of a moving hold. But as you see, he slides forward to get into this crunched pose. So what do I need to do? Again, if it's something like covering distance, well, that's pretty easy to make that edit. So I want this moving hold to be exactly where it is. I don't want him to be really close to the block right here, or you know, on his moving hold. So I'm going to actually edit all of the Z translation on this section so that the moving hold is actually where the little crunch down happens from. And it's going to be very easy because we only have 3 World IK controllers. These are them, okay? And you can tell because if you select them and then you try to move them in space, the whole body moves. If I'm leaving one behind like this, it would be stuck, okay? And now I'm just going to look at the Translate Z controls of all of these and just see what's happening. Okay, so what's happening is on frame 44, which is right here, he's at a 1Z position, and then boom, he goes to this more forward one. Now, what I can tell though is that the Z translation before he gets up into the air is static. So this is pretty simple. This will be a pretty easy fix. All I'm going to do is, well, what I could do is I could actually like drag it down and try to edit it. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to look at which frame it is the last frame right here. I'm just going to delete these and I'm going to move my Z translation to there. Now this might be a little bit too quick Z translation once he jumps up into the air. So I'm going to actually smooth these keys, and I'm just working kind of blindly right now, but I just have a feeling that they're going to need to be smooth in order to work at all. Okay, so here we go. All right, so his arc is super linear right now, so that's going to be a problem. So let me just see what's. Oops, wrong controller. My bad. Just make sure we're getting what we want. Yeah, so let's just make all of this Z just happen a little bit more fluidly, and I think we'll be good. Not too much. Okay. Now obviously this will take a little bit of editing to make perfect, but at least now we have something that's working and editable, and our director or whoever gave us the note to take out the middle section, the whole middle section, can see now what it's going to look like, how it's going to be timed, what it's going to feel like, and then we can edit and polish from here. So here is the scene now with the animation in the center section removed. See, he lands, looks, jumps, and he's up at the top. Okay, so those are the 2 tips. Number 1, again, work in a way that is editable and that you're making all of your animation, if you can, on all the controls on keys, sort of keying it like a stop motion animator or like a 2D animator, looking at the image basically, and then you won't even have to frame and delete, right? Because you pretty much everything is framed or walled off or bookended already. But when you're working in a scene that is, you know, even much further along, I've done this to scenes that are almost completed and they were, you know, they had every little bell and whistle in them already. But you just frame the section you want to remove with keys, delete the whole middle section, slam them together, and then look at things like, okay, how is he moving through space, and what am I going to have to smooth out first? And normally it's the world IK movers that you're going to have to fix first. So if they're flying through the air, you're going to have to fix that. If they're walking across the lawn, you're going to have to fix that. And then like tertiary concerns would be something like if you were told to take out one step. Well, you can't just take out one step because the footfall is left, right. So if you take out one step, then it's going to be left, right. So it's not going to work. So you have to consider those things as well. But I wanted to just take a second, answer this question, and show you without doing anything else. Like, this is how you wall off frames and then delete, okay? So, and that is a very, very common professional practice. So it's a good idea that you get used to it, practice it, you'll get faster and better, and things will go well for you, okay? So, don't forget, and quick plug, the Animals and Creatures Masterclass at Animation Mentor. I am a mentor at Animation Mentor, if you didn't know, and I'm mentoring the ANC class. It's a fantastic class. Just so I want to give you a quick plug, you should go to animationmentor.com. Even if you're a professional animator, it is a mind-blowing class. It's super eye-opening, and there's just great things in there for all of you. You can watch a webcast that we just did. They're going to post the webcast, a recording of the webcast that we did last Tuesday, on the 12th, and they're going to post it again. So you should check out that webcast if you haven't already. Okay? Thank you for your questions. Please send more questions. The address you need to send them to is webmaster@kennyroy.com. I go through all the questions and I answer the ones I think are going to help the most people, and I'm having a great time. Again, thank you for your support. Thank you for being part of the site. Tell your friends and earn those referral bonuses if you can. All right? All right. Good luck with your work, and as always, rock on.